Hello everybody, welcome to my astrology report for the new moon in Gemini. This is happening on Monday, June 3rd, the day that I'm making the video, and it happened early this morning on the East Coast. And I'm going to be talking to y'all today about what this Gemini new moon, the gifts of this Gemini new moon that it's kind of bringing into focus for us, and what this Gemini energy is kind of all about. We're in the heart of Gemini season right now with the sun at 12 degrees of Gemini. And I'm also going to talk about some of the other aspects of things going on that are kind of coloring in and creating the context for this time right now, and kind of my take on the best way to work with this new moon energy today. So, as always, if this stuff is interesting to you and you want to know more about how it impacts you on a personal level in your own charts, you can definitely reach out for a chart reading and over email at thefoolinthechariot@gmail.com or over Facebook is great. So, yeah, we are in the heart of Gemini season right now. Gemini energy, I think, is really fun. It's pretty exploratory, curious. There's a busyness to it, an excitement, sort of like a buzzing. So it's definitely felt a little bit restless would be a word that I'd use to describe kind of how this energy can sometimes make me feel. But kind of, and very active mentally, very busy mentally. And I think the message that's kept coming up for me over and over is like, slow down, rest. We're definitely kind of moving out of what I was understanding as a time of release and kind of letting go, closing doors, and sort of pivoting to decide what we wanted to kind of be bringing into our lives next, and what we wanted to be, where we wanted to be going, where we wanted to be moving, and letting go of stories, people, entities, projects, things that are not serving us anymore. And so we're kind of in this strange limbo right now of having released that and now being a little bit clearer, hopefully, about what we sort of the vibe of where we want to be going, the things we want to be creating, but there's nothing too crystal clear or too explicit that I think has come up in this time. We've got a really we've got a loose square that's going on between this sun and moon in Gemini and Neptune in Pisces. And Neptune in Pisces is just, it's very dreamy, it's very expansive, it's very imaginative, but it can also be kind of delusional or sort of totally detached from reality. So we're kind of in this, we have this opportunity, I think, with this tension to sort of like dream, expand, open, and then kind of see what will be coming into and manifesting in concrete reality, but not sort of like limiting ourselves. I think Gemini can sometimes be a little short-sighted and want to just kind of focus on what's like really immediate and right in front of you, which is really fun, and Gemini energy is so much too about communication and talking and using your voice and using your words and choosing the words really specifically. And so whereas that Neptune in Pisces is like, it's not through words that we communicate, it's through energy, it's through intention, it's through these things that are way less kind of measurable or concrete. It's through the language of energy rather than the language of words. So there's kind of this like interesting tension there with that square going on, where we could be kind of falling into one or the other of those extremes. I think they can actually work really well together, and the Neptune can sort of hold our Gemini explorations that we're in right now of thinking and processing and communicating with people to sort of narrow down, specify what we want to be doing with our lives, with our partnerships, with our friendships, with our projects, with what our families, whatever it might be, wherever we might have had some upheaval in the last few months. I think the Neptune in Pisces sort of holds us accountable to this sort of bigger purpose. And along those same lines, so Neptune in her home sign of Pisces, super strong. Saturn in his home sign of Capricorn. I guess I don't need to gender the planets or the signs. But Saturn in their home sign of Capricorn, Saturn is retrograde right now and has been with Pluto. There's this intensity of this time right now, kind of this like pressure building around these really big questions of what is our purpose, what are we doing here, what is our legacy going to be when we're gone, what are we manifesting, what is our reputation, what are we building for ourselves. And the Pluto with that Saturn is like really kind of holding it in check and making sure that there isn't sort of this power grab kind of that there's not egotistical kind of things going on, and anytime that there is, it's kind of shattering it in a really painful way. And so both of those planets moving retrograde, along with Jupiter moving retrograde, this is kind of a time of like 2 steps back. So as I was saying, the last few months being kind of this time of release, and now we have this opportunity with these retrograde planets to kind of reorient a little bit and take a few steps back to reset our course. And the conversation that Saturn and Neptune have been having for a while in this really beautiful sextile is like, the imagery that had come to mind was sort of like this emperor kind of like bowing down, surrendering to sort of like the higher powers, and making sure that we're in alignment with what we're manifesting here and what our purpose here is, really in alignment with this higher sense of deeper, not necessarily higher, whatever it might sort of mean to you, just sense of purpose that is not, that is beyond the realm of Earth, that understands that, we're the larger context with which we're in, of perhaps if you believe, someone who believes in reincarnation, multiple lifetimes, or that, on a very kind of practical level, that we're just like a tiny speck flying around in the middle of nowhere. Like the Pisces and Neptune and Pisces sort of helps us reground in this bigger picture, so that what we're doing here really has this kind of spiritual purpose to it, and that we're feeling very kind of authentic and truthful in what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so, now that they're coming back into conversation with that Saturn moving retrograde, it's another opportunity to sort of be like, okay, are we being true to kind of like our higher truths that we hold in what we're doing here? Are we forcing things? And I think with that Saturn and Pluto, there can be controlling, can be a big part. So with this Gemini energy, it can be there can be a lot of anxiety right now. It can be really kind of like busy, anxious, worried, thinking through all the details, can't turn your brain off, can't really sleep. We've got Mercury that's been moving through Gemini as well. The rules, Gemini, we actually have a bunch of planets in their home signs. Jupiter in Sagittarius, Saturn in Capricorn, Neptune in Pisces, Venus in Taurus, Mercury in Gemini. It's a really potent and kind of concentrated time right now. So even though we're kind of being asked to like surrender, that's that Neptune in Pisces, like surrender, and not try and be so meticulously controlling over everything, but kind of getting a little bit clearer about kind of being in this place of clarity now about things that no longer serve us and things that we want to call into our lives. The other sort of planet that I'd been mentioning with is Jupiter, which is in its home sign of Sagittarius in a retrograde now, which I truly think is a gift of this 2 steps back. Like, okay, we have the opportunity to kind of like reorient, restructure whatever it is that we're doing. Where are we pointing our arrow? Like, where are we trying to grow to? And also kind of allowing ourselves to imagine that we can grow beyond where we thought we were ever kind of possibly able to be going, and imagining beyond whatever limitations we've had around what success looks like, what fulfillment looks like, what freedom looks like, all of these kinds of things, just really kind of breaking through those barriers. And we've still got Mars moving through Cancer, which is going to be sort of coming into some challenging conversations over the next few weeks, where there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of rawness that the last few months have brought up, and a lot of sensitivity and vulnerability in this time right now. And Mars is in Cancer is like kind of uncomfortable there. I think it's a really beautiful placement. It is motivated to act and out of love, in a really kind of when that Cancer energy is functioning sort of in its clearest, most aligned way, it's acting out of love and acting out of this sort of like fierce vulnerability, and intuitively rather than sort of pragmatically, in the way that perhaps this Gemini energy or this Capricorn energy would be wanting us to move. And so it can make for just a bit of a challenging time. So my thoughts around this new moon, after sort of doing a lot of deliberating about like how I want to be spending this time, is really like calling in clarity, like not calling too specifically or unless you have a really clear idea about something that you want. I think words can be really powerful right now, but just kind of calling for a sense of clarity, so that we can receive the gifts that are going to continue. Once we've released, releasing is sort of creating this like fertile new patch of soil where new things can grow. And I think the new moons are sort of inspiration. And so this is a time, I think, of really kind of being open to seeing what's going to come next and trusting that it's in alignment with our highest truth, or calling in what's in alignment with our highest truth, but not sort of getting too rigid or not constricting ourselves in any way, because this Jupiter retrograde goes over, the next handful of months. So we've got to really make sure that we're not limiting ourselves in any way, and really kind of just trusting and opening for what is going to be coming next. Because with Uranus moving through Taurus for the next 7 years, it's a lot of things are going to be unpredictable, and we have to be sort of flexible and fluid enough to know that, and trusting enough in the universe and forces that be, that things will align. So I think this is more kind of like, what is our mental state? Are we in a mental state of tightness and anxiety and stress and worry? Or are we in a mental state of receiving, and that just our state of mind will impact and influence the way that the next few months kind of unfold. So I'm going to pull some cards to see if we can get a little bit more information about this new moon. I think it's a really sort of subtle and beautiful time to remember that we're all, on a certain level, we're channels, like what are we here to do? What are we here to share? What gifts are we here to share? What's our story that we want to tell? And Gemini can be this exciting sort of just exploratory energy of like, oh, I could try this, or I could try this, or just the options, and it's the archetype of the learner. There's this sort of humility and excitement around what's coming, and I think, if we've done that releasing, then we'll be in pretty good shape. If we haven't, then I think this is maybe a time to make sure that this woman who I listened to, she calls it cosmic debris. We're clearing out the cosmic debris. So that this can really be truly a time of clarity. So, pulled a few cards. All right. So, got an interesting combination of characters here. First, we have this is the Cup Mother. So, in this deck, instead of the Knight, the Page, the King, and the Queen, they do the daughter, the Amazon, and the mother. So the Cup Mother, and in this deck, is associated with the sign of Cancer. This is really calling us to be our really kind of sensitive, vulnerable, intuitive, emotionally empowered versions of ourselves. Like really kind of, this card reminds me a lot of the Empress card, really creative, really embodied. And so, yeah, like I was saying, this is an interesting sort of set of cards that we've got because they don't necessarily kind of support one another. So they're kind of like very different kind of energies. Than we have the Daughter of Swords, which is in this particular deck associated with the sign of Aquarius. And so this is kind of calling for this more emotionally removed and sort of like objective perspective on what's happening right now, and being able to sort of move through things in a way that is more rational and pragmatic. And so, yeah, this is definitely kind of this tension here, I think, between like indulging this vulnerability and sort of the creative, juicy sort of abundance of what this time is, and being able to sort of be objective and not be sort of like drowning or not be stuck because we can't make decisions. And so this also kind of calls for, I think this is kind of like cutting ties is really kind of what this feels like to me, this card, sort of cutting out what no longer is working for us and being able to sort of do that like unemotionally. Not that releasing things can be really emotional, but sometimes just having that cool kind of crisp way of navigating that can be even more helpful. And I knew this card was going to come up because I was just thinking about it in my head this morning. This can be, I mean, you can kind of see in this person's face here, there's like this longing for safety or control over circumstances, over little details. She's kind of like juggling all these things, manipulating them like they're marionettes. And yeah, I think this can be, we can maybe be longing to cling on to what we know, or try and, now that we've released, if that's part of what this last few months has been, then leaving space for what's coming in next, and not trying to totally, not limiting ourselves in what the possibilities of things that could be by trying to sort of like articulate everything in a way that's really concrete. So I think this is kind of just letting it be a little bit more open-ended, but I think that it is possible, like if this is really like the goal of this time, because even though she is really vulnerable and really emotional, I think there's a clarity there, there's wisdom there that can not sort of fall into the shadowy aspects of what that Cancer energy can bring, of sorrow or nostalgia. It's sort of like let go so you can really be just who you are, and let go so you can just see what gifts come out when you're really embodied and kind of in the body and in the moment. So I think that is all that I have for today. Yeah, please reach out if any of this stuff is interesting to you. Thank you for everyone who hangs in and watches these videos, and I wish you all lots of love and space and just sort of the capacity to sink, sort of float through this new moon time, and use the next few days to kind of, journaling's really great, just see what words are coming out. Writing right now is really important. Yeah. All right, take care, y'all.